Hello, and welcome to another episode of Mo Money, Mo Houses, the personal finance podcast with a dash of sass. I'm your host, Jessica Morehouse, and today I have a very special guest. Many of you may already know her as Blonde on a Budget, but to me, she is my friend Cait, and I'm very excited that she is on the program today. How you doing, Cait? Thanks for being on the program today.
No, thanks for having me.
You're welcome. So the reason I wanted you on my show was, I think your story is super inspirational to a lot of people. You start out with a bunch of debt, were able to, get yourself out of it. And now you've kind of changed your lifestyle to be more sustainable and to save as much money as you can, basically. So let's kind of go from the beginning. Where did this all start for you?
Let me think. It was just before the summer of 2011. I was 25, just about to turn 26, and kind of just doing normal things. I was finishing school. I had 1 year left to finish my degree off, but I was kind of living this like unsustainable lifestyle back then of just overspending, and it was one of those things like I'd known it. You kind of know in the back of your head that it's happening. You know that you're spending too much money. So I was just kind of swiping for whatever I wanted and financed a brand new car and did all that stuff and all the things you're supposed to do or think you're supposed to do when you're 25. And then it all caught up with me and I was maxed out with just over $28,000 of debt.
Oh. So did that include student debt? Yeah,
I'm really lucky. Well, lucky. I mean, I only ended up having about $4,500 of student debt. I did school really differently. Like I did school kind of broken up. Like I did a 2-year diploma at first when I was like 19 and I was still living at home for that. So I walked out of that with no debt. And I was still working full time and stuff like that, doing that. And then I took a few years off and was just working, and like making like decent money. I was working for the provincial government. And decided to go back to school and do the last 2 years so I could actually finish up my degree in communications. So the way that it worked in government is that they paid for $5,000 of school. Nice. I mean, my degree was like almost 20. But so,
that's nice.
It was nice. They paid a little bit of it. So didn't have too much student, mostly consumer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so when was the moment you're like, oh crap, I need to turn this around?
It was like really obvious for me. It were very vivid. Like I'll never forget it. It was like around the end of April. I knew that I was close to being maxed out. I'd say for months leading up to it, I'd been ignoring my credit card statements.
Oh,
so
really?
They would come in the mail. And I remember like peeling back like the top corner of them and like just looking inside so I could just see what the minimum amount was, but I never looked at the balance because I was like too scared to see what it was. And like the minimum balance, I can't remember, but it probably was creeping up to like $175 or something, and that's just your minimum. So I just remember like knowing that I was going to have to ask my parents to move home, and then literally the day that I moved home, I got a credit card statement and I remember sitting down and finally opening it up and looking at it because I'd had that gut instinct for so long that like the situation just wasn't good. Like things were not where they were supposed to be. I knew how tight my budget was. Like I just was in a lot of trouble. Finally looked at it, saw that I was like within $25 of being maxed out on my credit card. And I mean like I'd moved back home with my parents. You're not feeling great about that at 25.
Yeah.
It was not a fun day.
And then, so at what point after that, I guess, did you start, I need to figure out how to pay down this debt? And when did the blog kind of come into that? And did it have like, I guess, a big influence on your journey?
Yeah, so it was really interesting. Like I started the blog right away. Like as soon as that happened, I just like remember typing in like blondeonabudget.wordpress.com and like getting it set up. But the goal of it was like I was thinking of it the way that someone who wanted to lose weight would track their food or their calorie intake or their exercise or something like that. Like I was like, I need to log in and every day or every few days, like just keep track of what I've been spending, how much debt I've been paying off. And you can go back, like I've like purposely left them all there because they're awful. But that's what it was. Like the blog was like just these like weekly spending reports, and it wasn't meant for anybody. Like I never thought it would be anything that it is now, but it was never supposed to be something.
It was just something that you wanted to do to keep yourself accountable, and then it just kind of blew up, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, it obviously helped me throughout the entire thing. I know for a fact that like I would never have gotten out of debt as quickly as I did if I hadn't had the blog. And so for two reasons. Like one is that I was being accountable to myself, but then I've also felt this, like as I got readers, I felt this huge sense of like I needed to be accountable and do this for other people. And I had all these like amazing people, like at first just kind of like local, and then in Canada, and then all over the place, who were like rooting for me. And I'm like, man, like I gotta make this happen.
Exactly. You can't let these people down.
I can't not get out of debt.
Exactly.
But it changed the way I was spending a lot. Like I remember, especially because of those silly little weekly spending reports, but I'd be like out maybe thinking of shopping or something, and I'm like, oh my God, I do not want to spend like $80 on this and have to write that down.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I wouldn't shop because I'm like, well, I don't want to tell him when I did that, so I better just not do it.
That's a good way to do it. That's awesome.
Yeah. So no.
And so you kind of kept that up. How long did it take you to finally reach zero?
I made the last payment. It was within like 2 weeks of the 2-year date from when I'd started my blog. So I just say it took 2 years.
Yeah, that's amazing. For how much did you say? Like 25,000?
28,000. And then like I was really weird the way that I'd paid it off. Like I did things probably not the way that any expert would tell you to like pay off your debt. Like I had 28,000, so broken down it was like I had 4,500 for school, which was actually just money my parents had lent me. And I hated owing people, like physical people, money, right? Like it feels so different when you owe a credit card company. I mean, it sucks that you're being charged interest, but owing actual people money is the worst feeling in the world.
I agree.
So when I asked my parents if I could move home, I said, like, I want to pay you guys back. And also keep in mind, my parents had no idea how much debt I had, but they knew I owed that. And so I wanted that wiped out. So yeah, you did things backwards. Here's this like debt with 0% interest, but I needed it gone first. And then I slowly started working on credit cards combined with, I focused on credit cards, and then I had 2 loans left over at the end. So I had my car loan from when I thought it was a really awesome idea to finance a car. And then I had a personal loan from actually like 2 years before I was maxed out. I had realized I was almost maxed out with about $12,000 of debt, and I got a loan to consolidate it. And like I'd told myself I would stop spending now that I had it all consolidated into one loan. But then of course I didn't drop the limits on my credit cards or anything, and so I just went back to my normal spending ways.
Yeah.
So no, 2 years. I did it all backwards the way that you're probably supposed to.
But I feel like, especially with things like that are so personal, you kind of have to, see what the experts say, but also do what makes the most sense to you. Otherwise, you won't do it. If you're just following someone else's guidelines step by step, you need to, kind of change things up so they make sense to your lifestyle. Otherwise, you're just not going to keep it up, and you're going to stop and then get back to your bad habits, right?
Yep. No, and it's true. So sometimes I think I'm like, I'm sure that I paid too much credit card interest during that time if I'd focused on paying that one down first. But then I'm like, meh, like it just...
Yeah, it's like at the end of the day, it all worked out, right? And so I remember when you were getting close to that, paying off all your debt number, you're like, I don't know what I'm going to write about, because you'd been talking about debt for 2 years, and you're like, what's the next step? And so what's really cool to see is your next step was basically totally altering your lifestyle to, another really great goal is to, let you talk about it.
Yeah.
You explain it better than I do.
Yeah. Well, we'll start at the beginning. Like I remember as I was inching closer to like paying off my debt, I remember thinking I was just going to stop the blog altogether.
Yeah, that's right.
And I'd written about it and like told people that was going to happen even. And the reason for that was because I had this idea that like no one would want to read like, oh, I've saved X amount per month. Or people would think, I don't know, it was weird.
Yeah, you might, lose some of your debt followers. They're like, well, I'm still in debt though.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I just felt like it would be weird. And so, I remember thinking that I was going to get rid of it. And then I'm really glad I didn't. I don't know what the switch was of deciding to keep it. But then, yeah, I just had this general thought that it would be weird or different. Like life after debt would be different. So there would probably be things to talk about.
Definitely.
And then it didn't all change direction right away. I actually it took like a year of being debt free for me to then look at my savings account. And like your goal is like, or what you hope to do or plan to do is like when you pay off all your debt, all the money that you were originally putting towards your debt, you'd all of a sudden start putting into savings. Well, and I didn't do that. And I'm like, there's no good reason for it.
Yeah.
I let lifestyle inflation creep in. There were months when I was in debt repayment mode that I was putting up to like 55% of my income towards debt.
Wow.
Which is actually like that's probably too much.
I'm like, that's a lot.
It was a lot, and that's not sustainable either, really, right? Like, so of course it didn't make sense that all of a sudden I'd start saving 55% of my income. But I was saving like a max of 20. There were many months where I looked back at my budgets and it'd be like, I saved 8%.
Yeah, and you're like, where'd it go?
And I'm like, and I'm also like I know better than this. Like, and I have savings goals, and I keep talking about them, but I'm not actually getting anywhere. So, I kind of looked around my place. Like, it started with that. I remember looking at my place one day, also getting frustrated. Like, when you just lose the stupidest little things in your house, and you're like, why can't I find them?
Yep.
Like, I could not find a can opener, and I live in a 1-bedroom place by myself, and I have one drawer with like utensils and cutlery. So like, where the heck is that freaking can opener? When you can't find that, like, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
So I remember getting so frustrated thinking about how much stuff was in my place, and like physically being able to see little things that I'd spent money on throughout the year of being debt free. And none of it was like amazing or good investments. Like, I'd see like candle holders or like, I don't know, like just little
things. There
things.
are lots of things that you'd buy and you totally forgot you bought. Sometimes that happens to me. We're like, I forgot I bought that. Why did I buy it?
Not too much, although I used to like stockpile toiletries.
Okay.
Right. So like not tons. Like you see crazy like extreme couponer shows.
My God.
Like it's not
There's
like
stockpiles and they're so proud.
but I could like I remember it because I did this massive declutter that we're going to talk about. So I did this like massive declutter, and I remember toiletries being insane, like just adding up the numbers, and like for visual effect, I like poured them all into my bathroom sink and took a picture of it because it was overflowing. And I'm like, I am one person. And also lotion. What the heck is with lotion?
I don't personally, coming from BC and now living in Toronto, like I understand living in Toronto, you need your lotion because I am crazy dry there, but I never once used moisturizer here because you do not need it because there's like water in the air here. You don't need lotion.
So I use lotion, but like barely any. But I had like 12 bottles or something, and like all these different kinds. And
you're looking, have a bath in that.
And you're looking at them, though, I'm like, why do I own these? Like, I don't even like half the scents, like, or they're like just not my style or whatever. Like, it's just, anyways. So yeah, you used to stockpile these weird little things because you're sold, like so much of it is like you're sold into the marketing scheme of it, right? Like it's a beautiful package or this or that and it's on sale. And
yeah, for me, it's like I walk into Shoppers getting, wanting to get one thing, but they're like, but this is on sale. I may need it. I may run out of my, whatever shampoo, and then you buy it and then I forget to buy it. And I'm like, why do I have that shampoo? God damn it.
Yep.
Yeah.
So no, I just, I looked around my place and just realized like how much stuff I had. I'd also, I mean, this is kind of off topic, but I'd also, in 2013, I moved 5 times.
That's crazy.
And when you move that many times, you continually pack your things in these boxes, take them to a new place, unpack them, look at them again. And you're like, after your 5th move, you look at it all and you're like, what is all of this? Like, in my last 4 homes, I didn't even need most of this stuff.
Yeah.
And in my place that I'm still in now, that was the last place I moved to, like it was sitting in closets like as storage. Like it was just, I just had extra boxes of stuff in the closet that did nothing. Yeah. So the blog's taken a very weird shape now because then...
I like the shape. It's just about, I think it's great because there aren't, like, in my perspective, there aren't too many blogs out there that are for the people that have like successfully finished their debt repayment. And then they're like, now what? I mean, I feel like when you're looking at different personal finance blogs, there's lots of different niches like couponing or groceries or real estate or whatever, but there aren't too many specific ones for like, this is how you should lead your life after debt repayment.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I thought was especially interesting about your kind of new blog framework was you don't have that debt repayment goal, but your new goal is this year-long shopping ban. So let's get into that.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Oh, man. So what day did you start your shopping ban?
I started it on July 7th, which was my 29th birthday.
So you did not go shopping on your birthday?
I did not. I did not treat myself on my birthday.
You couldn't have started the next day.
No. Nope. I started on July 7th, so it'll go till July 6th.
Mm-hmm. And so what does this shopping ban entail? Like, obviously, it sounds like you just don't go shopping for a year, which sounds awful. But I'm sure it's not awful. Like, it's a pretty positive thing.
Those are the rules.
Well, yeah. There's one rule in shopping ban.
No shopping. So it was interesting. So two things happened. Like, one is I did this massive declutter.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I went through all my stuff in my place and was like, I have too much crap, let's get rid of it all.
How'd you get rid of it? Did you just like donate it, or?
Yeah, I donated almost everything. Like, you toss things, like when you find like socks that have holes in them, like that goes in the garbage.
I'm still bad with that. I'm like, it's still good. I'm like, no, Jessica, throw those socks out.
So there were like things that went in the garbage. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, there were only a couple of things I sold. Things that I knew I could get like $100 for, mm-hmm. right? But then like clothes, shoes, books, honestly, like I filled my car, I think 2.5 times. Wow. Like literally like passenger seat to the trunk, like just filled it and drove it and dropped it all off. I just thought like, I mean, I donated some places were like Value Village. One was like Canadian Diabetes, like places mm-hmm. that I know it's still going to go somewhere. Yeah. And that at least part of the money or whatever will help someone else. So, so in doing all of that, the first thing I did for the shopping ban was actually created a list of a few things I knew I would have to buy. Mm-hmm. Like I kind of was able to look at the year ahead and say, you know, I have 6 weddings to go to. Yeah. I have like 1 dress. I don't want to wear 1 dress to all these weddings. Mm-hmm. Like I'm going to get one more so I can at least swap off. But I actually had like no pairs of ballet flats that were decent. Mm-hmm. So I was like, okay, well, I need a pair of those. And you have a couple of things. Oh, one was a new bed. If I could save enough money for it, I was allowed to buy a new bed. My bed was like 13 years old. It was just in awful condition.
It's time to go.
It had been time to go for like 3 years. So I was like, if I can save for it and make it possible, we'll make that happen. But yeah, otherwise, like no clothes, no shoes, no bags, no toiletries, unless it's like something I use and run out of. Weird things, I'm like, no nail polish, because I would have like that weird habit of like, again, it's when you look back on it, it's all marketing stuff, right? Like it's like you walk by, I'm like, well, I know I'm out of eyeliner, so you pick up an eyeliner and then you're like, oh, but nail polish is on for $5, and like I don't have that color. Yeah. That would be really cute this summer, and I'm not even that girly, so the fact that I like nail polish is kind of weird.
I have like a box of nail polish and I never wear it.
Exactly.
But again, all my moves, I bring it. I'm like, why am I bringing these nail polishes? I don't even know how to properly put it on. Like legit, it takes me an hour to fix it. So
no, exactly. So nail polish was on the list. I'm not allowed to buy candles. The biggest thing for me was no books.
Yeah, that's gonna be hard.
That was honestly hard. Of anything else, books were the toughest thing for me because again, it sort of goes back, and I've talked about this on the blog a lot, but it goes back to habits. Like I wasn't really in habits of shopping for anything else. I was never one to like go to the mall and just walk around and look for clothes. But books, over like, I don't know, the past X many years, it's been this habit of mine where like the minute a book comes out, I go on Amazon and just buy it. Like you just do. Yeah. It doesn't matter if I have a stack of 50 that I haven't even read on my bookshelf. It's like when one comes out and I want it, I would just get it.
Yeah.
So that was a serious habit. Oh, and then especially once I had a Kobo, like as soon as I had an e-reader. Yeah. And then it's literally like 3 clicks, I think, to buy an ebook.
I know, it's too easy.
So to change that habit was huge. And so that was a big one that I felt. And then another weird one where a lot of people still don't get it or why I did this was I did no takeout coffee. Which is also just huge for me.
I believe it because most people buy one a day, and it's one of those things that just creep up on you and you don't realize how much you're actually spending.
Yep. And so for me, takeout coffee was, I remember when I was in debt repayment mode, like I was, I'd said I was living on such a tight budget and was allocating so much for debt repayment, but I'd always given myself this little allowance for takeout coffee. So it's like I'd allowed myself to, like, I don't know, keep this little habit going. Not too much, but it was like I had $60 a month or something like that. But yeah, as soon as I was debt free, I was kind of like, I can have coffee whenever I want now. And then, like, I don't even know the number. I mean, we could go back and like look at all my statements, but like, I don't even know the numbers. I'm like, I probably spend $100 at least a month on coffee or something. So it was just too much. So takeout coffee had to go. The only time I was allowed to have it was if I was in another city. So like where I didn't have access to a coffee maker. So like I'm in Vancouver, but I work for a Toronto company. So if I was in Toronto, then I was allowed coffee. But yeah, so there was a lot of no's. Yeah. A lot of not allowed to buy a lot of stuff.
Did you find just having all those no's very restricting? Like, did you find, like, I don't know, just living your day-to-day was like a little bit more difficult, or was it easier than you expected?
I think for the most part, all of it's been easier than I expected. Like I said, like the book thing was the toughest because that was a habit. Other ones have like all crept up. Like I've had like weeks where, I'm like, oh, like I don't really feel great in my clothes. And you kind of wish like if you went out and bought something, it would make you feel better. Yeah. But then when you can't, you actually are able to look at things like, why I don't feel good this week? It's because I haven't been eating well this week, or I haven't been sleeping well this week, or I haven't been drinking enough water. It's like, I just don't look good, or, you know what I mean? Like, it's not usually actually about the clothes. Exactly. It's like something physical that you're actually feeling. So, yeah, the like delayed gratification, like forces you to look at what else is going on. So no, I'm like, it hasn't been tough. Just very eye-opening. I feel like I'm like constantly, I don't know, it's just like my brain of being self-aware is just on. Absolutely. Like it doesn't stop. Because you don't have all
that stuff to kind of clutter. And I totally agree. And I love that you're doing this because I feel like I've kind of done a little bit of this like simple lifestyle, not so much in choice, but when me and my husband moved from Vancouver to Toronto, we literally had to sell all of our stuff. We didn't know how long we were going to stay in Toronto, so we just tried not to accumulate anything that we didn't need. And then it's like I've only bought like 2 books, and we've been there for almost 2 years. Yeah. So I only try to go to the library or like get something that I can read on my Kobo or whatever. And it's honestly kind of freeing because you don't have a bunch of stuff. Like we have a tiny apartment anyway, so we really don't have any place to put any stuff. But it feels nice because without all that stuff, you don't have. I don't know. I just feel like it clutters at my mind, and so with less stuff, you're like you can just kind of focus more.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And like that's been like, it's like for me it's been like there's 2 things that have coupled together. So like I got rid of all my crap, but then I also wasn't allowed to bring anything new in. So it's like I've been forced to live just like with what I have, right? Like you're just forced to live with what you own. And I go to the library all the time now. I actually joked a little while ago with someone that like, because like I honestly, leading up to this, I don't think I'd been to the library since I was like 12 years old or something. Like the minute I had a job and made money, like I just bought books. Yeah. But then I was joking with someone because I got my library card just before the shopping ban, but I got my library card, and now like I go so often that I got my new MasterCard in the number, but I'd memorized my library card number from like ordering books.
That's amazing.
Before, and I still don't know my new MasterCard number. So I think that's kind of a win.
That's amazing.
I'd say it's a win for the shopping ban.
So have you, like, since you've been doing the shopping ban, like how long has it been? Like almost a year. You're almost to that year point, I guess.
Yeah, I'm at 9 months on April 7th.
The shopping ban baby is about to be born. Yeah. I was just thinking that. Sorry. I had to.
I'm ready to pop.
I know. But have you looked back at your financials and seen, because it seems like you're not so much focusing on the money portion, you're focusing on the lifestyle, but has kind of the money just like, it follows. It's kind of worked itself out because of the lifestyle change.
Yes, there's a couple things. I haven't blogged about this yet, but there's a couple things I've noticed about my budgets. One is that I'd set this goal that I was going to do my budgets differently. I did it because I had this great conversation with my sister where we were talking about how much money she made and how much she was saving. And she said something to me like, I'm saving 20% of my income so I can do whatever I want with the rest. And as soon as she said it, I was like, but do you actually need 80% of your income?
Exactly.
Like, it's great. She was 20 when she said this. So I'm like, it's amazing that you're saving 20% of your income. But do you, at 20 and living at home going to school, do you actually need 80% of your income?
Yeah.
Like, probably not.
No, yeah.
So the minute, and like just that little conversation, the minute that like switched off in my brain, I was like, I want to try and live on less, like continually try and live on less. And it's not even just because I'm saving all the rest, but I want to focus on the living part. Like,
absolutely.
Because what I would find is that, and everyone does it, but we create these budgets where we like allocate for every dollar that we spend. And yes, like usually savings is in there and all that, but we allocate for everything. I think the problem is that if you have in your budget that you're allowed to spend, $100 on personal stuff, it actually like I'm just thinking this stuff right now. I actually think that it makes people think, okay, well, I have $100 to spend this month. But some months I might spend $12 on myself. And on myself also means like shampoo, conditioner. Like some months since the shopping ban, I don't spend anything, like unless I've run out of razors or like something I actually need. So I keep looking at my old budgets and thinking like, if we are looking at our budgets like this and we just see that we're allowed to spend money, is it making us spend money?
Yeah.
And I don't know if the answer is like yes, but the fascinating thing has been just since I've started it, I'm now living on probably between like 47 and 50% of my income.
Wow.
Whereas before, like I was saying, like I was saving like a max of 20, sometimes only 8.
Yeah. And it's just like, so we spent the rest or, yeah.
Exactly. So now I'm living off less than like 50 or less. And I usually travel a little bit. Well, like I travel a lot.
Yeah, I'm like, you travel quite a bit.
But some months I haven't. But like, I'll maybe a few percent up to like, I've had up to like 20% go to travel if I like am going to a bunch of places. But I have been saving, at least so far in 2015, I've been saving consistently at least 40%. And I think until the shopping ban's over, I'll be able to maintain that to at least 35% to 40%. And yeah, so that's like where the sustainable part comes in, right? Like it's just like, because I'm not allowed to shop, that's great, I'm not spending money, but I think it just really forced me to like look at the numbers differently.
Yes.
Like it just made me focus on like, I only want to like spend X amount a month. And it doesn't include my whole freaking paycheck.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I only want to spend a portion of it.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good way to look at your finances. Because, sometimes we just allocate money like, okay, this is what I can spend. This is what I have to save. This is whatever. But, if we give that spending money a specific number, do we feel obligated to spend that each month? And sometimes I'll look at, my budget and my bank account and be like, oh, I still have $30 to spend. Instead of thinking, oh, I could put that in the bank. I'll like think of something. I'll be like, oh, I can treat myself now. And it's like, well, do you even need that, really?
And that's like really common. Like I think when I think back on that, I'm like, that was my exact mentality when I, got my first job when I was like 14 or 15. Like you get like a couple $100 and you're all excited about it. But you look at it in your bank account with zero thought of saving it. Yeah. You look at it, you're like, ooh, I have $200 to spend. And then leading up to your next payday, you're like, I have $8 left to spend. Like, so it's this mentality that we get right from when we start making money, or at least lots of people that I talk to about it, but like we get it right from the beginning and it goes all the way to the end, like until we decide to try and do it a little bit differently. That's just how it always is. It's always about spending what's in there.
So once you hit that date of your spending ban's over, what's kind of, I guess, the next big goal? I guess one of the big goals will just be trying to maintain that after being in such an aggressive lifestyle. But what's kind of next, do you think?
That's like really tough. I would say like right now the goal is just to see if I can maintain it. It's been so long now that I genuinely know that I'll never be the type of consumer I was before.
And that's really cool. That's really cool.
There's just like no way I could ever go back to it. Especially when you're forced to see what's going on. There's no way I could go back to being like mindless about my spending. So yeah, it'll be maintaining it. I don't know if I have like crazy goals. Like I have excuse me, I have a friend who kind of jokes, is like, oh, if you're saving like 40% of your income, you'll be one of those people who like early retires like in their 30s or something. I'm like, well, no. Like I'm starting from square one in savings.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I have savings, but I don't have like $500,000 yet. Like, I don't even have one.
Yeah.
So I'm like, so that's not happening.
Yeah.
And I don't really know if that's like a goal. I think it'd be pretty cool, though, I guess one day if I could make it so that I was saving 50%.
Yeah. I guess that'd be more possible the more money you make and everything.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's awesome.
So no, I think it'll be maintaining it.
Well, I think that's a pretty big goal, and it'll be cool to follow your blog and just see you doing it, because I feel like it's cool to read and see someone do something like that, but I think it also encourages lots of people to try it out themselves. So
I'd say that's the biggest thing with money in general, is that everyone, I don't know, and I used to think this too, it's like you look at all the stuff that the experts say and stuff like that, and you think that you're supposed to follow this like specific set of rules, but like that's what I love about personal finance, is like the word personal, right?
Exactly.
Like everyone does things differently. Even if like two people did their budgeting similarly, it's never going to be exactly the same. And so I'm like, for anyone who's like thinking about like doing anything with their finances, it's like, just try it. Like try it.
Try
like,
something out and see if it works. If it doesn't, try something else.
Like people, you know, they used to say like, you know, I could never budget. I'm like, I actually guarantee if you like tracked your spending for like a month, you could probably write a budget. And then it's like, now people are always like, oh, I could never do a shopping ban. I couldn't even do one for like a week. I'm like, I guarantee you could do a shopping ban for a week.
Kind of, yeah. It's like, if I can do it, you can do it. Anyone can do it. You just have to want to do it.
Yeah.
And just give it a
I'm
chance.
Like, but your shopping ban can be different. You don't have to include takeout coffee.
Yeah.
Like, you could keep your coffee. That's cool.
And you also, I remember reading one of your blog posts, and you had there was like a checklist or something. It was like, or it's like simple living 30 things. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, the 30-day minimalism challenge.
Yeah. That looks so cool.
So it's actually not mine. This other blogger, I can't remember her name, but the site's called, I think, into-mind.org. I think that what it was. She's out of, I think, Germany or something. And yeah, it was just a 30-day minimalism challenge of these little simple things of, you know, some of them are just like, you know, try and journal for 20 minutes. So just being more mindful, to going barefaced, like for girls, like don't wear any makeup for
Not
a
a problem with me.
I know.
It's like, done.
I know. I put like 3 things on, and that's only if I leave the house. I work from home.
I put mascara on for you, just so you know.
I work from home, so there are like weeks where I don't put anything on. But yeah, it's just I'll have to write about it when it's done, when my 30 days are done. But that's been really interesting too. Just again, just changing habits, and more of it for me has been removing mental clutter. I'm like kind of obsessed with that right now.
No, I think that's awesome.
Like,
especially with like just the normal kind of lifestyle that people have. You've got your computer, your phone. There's just things pulling you in a bunch of directions. But little do we know that most of the time we're so busy, but we don't even know where we're busy, and we're not even really accomplishing anything, or just, you know, years will go by and you'll be like, what did I do? And you're not conscious of your being. So I think this is really awesome, the mindfulness thing that you're doing.
I think the connectedness thing is kind of bang on, right? Like it's especially in our generation. But I noticed it because I would take these like Epsom salt baths, and I would get out of them half an hour later and not really remember relaxing or doing anything. And it's because I was on my phone.
Oh, yeah.
So I'd be like, that's when I would like check email or check Twitter or reply to a bunch of texts or talk to a friend or whatever. And I'm like, I actually like the reason I take the Epsom salt bath is to relax.
Yeah.
I can't spend 30 minutes without my phone.
Yeah.
Like that's a problem.
That's a problem. But it's a normal problem that, you know, most people have,
Yeah.
myself included. That's for sure.
Yeah. Some of the little challenges have been, they've been great and made me so much more productive.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks so much for joining me today. This was awesome. It was so great talking to you.
Yeah, you too.
If any of y'all don't know Cait's awesome blog, it's blondeonabudget.ca. Woo!
Woo!
And you know me, my blog is momoneymohouses.com. And if ever you want to chat, just reach me on Facebook or Twitter. And thanks for joining, and I hope to see you guys, or, well, I'm not going to see you because you can't see me,